Welcome to all. Topic is attribute definition. Defining attributes in document type definition. We know that attributes are giving additional information about an element. It defines a property of an element. An element can have any number of unique attributes. For example, we have created student element. The student element, this is element. If you want to give any additional information about student, say for example, I want to give student studying. This is a valid attribute with the value should be double quoted, which is I have given BCA, and I would like to close this element. This is an element which is carrying single attribute. The same attribute should not be repeated more than once for this particular element. Suppose I have another student, the same attribute I am having, which is the value is MCA. Is it right or wrong? It is right, because we should not repeat the attribute, that is same attribute for the same element. I can repeat this attribute for another student element. This is one pattern of an XML document. Student has one attribute which is studying, and the value is BCA for first element and MCA for second element in this example. How can we define an attribute using document type definition? Look at this. This is the keyword at list. It should start with opening angle bracket followed by exclamation symbol. At list. At list is a keyword, should be given in capital letter. All characters should be in uppercase. Space, what is the element? Its name should be given. Space, what are the attribute we would like to add for an element, that can be given here. So at list, element name, space, attribute name, space, we have to provide the data type. Here it is called attribute type. That portion we will discuss with C data, entity, ID, ID ref, and also NM token. So this portion we will discuss, which is called data type for an attribute. Space, we have attribute value type. The attribute value type, whether the attribute value is fixed value or default value. So this kind of specifications we can give in this attribute value type, and the element should be closed. This is the way we have to close the definition about attribute. The element name, as I have mentioned, the DTD attribute starts with at list keyword. This is the way an attribute can be defined. Coming to this, how the attribute definitions can be written. Here all attributes used in XML document should be defined in DTD. It is important. Say for example, I have an element with 5 different attributes. All the 5 attribute definitions should be given in the particular DTD. Remember one thing, all attributes should be defined within the DTD. It is important. DTD, it may be internal or it may be external. If it is internal, within the XML document, the definition about element followed by attribute will be there. If it is external, in the sense it is a separate file kept for holding the element definitions. Actually, it is a kind of rule how the XML document should be. Now, define an attribute using attribute list, which is abbreviated as @list. This is a keyword, only the keyword using that definition about an attribute. And attributes may only appear in start or empty tags. Say for example, I have created starting tag as student. This is opening tag. Here only I have to specify the attribute list like roll number 101, then name, Pradeep. Suppose I don't want to have any text or child element, in the sense I can close it with force close symbol slash. It has been defined here. Attributes may only appear in start tag, that is opening tag, or the empty tag. If it is, this is considered as empty tag because it doesn't have any child as well as text, so that I can say this element is empty element. @list must be in uppercase alone. This is about the XML document. We have to write definition about the attribute that I can show you. No duplicate attributes allowed within the attribute list for a particular XML element. This is the rule for making an XML document with attribute. Look at this example. We have started the XML document. Actually, this XML document carries both XML document as well as DTD. It has been given here. The document, actually this is only the XML portion. This XML, which is having student space attribute name, and within double quotes, only double quote is allowed, not single quote for attribute. The attribute name is name and its value is Sriram we have given. You can give any text for attribute value. If you want to give Rajesh, you can give Rajesh instead of Sriram. If you want to give 1996, you can give, because it consider everything as character data. Only this much of validation is possible for attribute. If you give the character data, you can give any lowercase characters, uppercase characters, symbols, anything can be given within double quotes. It is given within double quotes. So you can give anything. It considered everything as string. That we will discuss. What are other possible values for an attribute that we will be having the forthcoming video lectures. Before that, you should know how to define an attribute for an element. Here you can have, this is what? This is a text for an element. We know that in the opening element, that is opening tag, only can carry a list of attributes. The list of attributes are unique attributes. The values may be repeated. You can see the character data with hash required has given. In this portion, the C data, which represents character data, as I mentioned here, @list space element name space name, Actually, the name is an attribute that I have given here. The student is a tag that I have given in the XML document, and I am specifying what type of content the name attribute will have, that is character data. I have specified here. So, you can give anything between opening and closing double quotes, and I have specified the attribute type, which is hash required I have given. In this part, what are other possible that we will discuss in the forthcoming slides. Attribute types. This is actually how the variables can be declared under any one of the type. As like that, in other programming languages, various type of data types available for declaring the values of a particular variable. Primitive, user defined, like that. In XML, especially in document type definition, we have C data is one of the important character data. It is like string type data, and attribute can hold any values. And next one is ID. The ID type, say for example, student whose register number should not be repeated more than once for the entire XML document. I have given just a moment. I would like to give it as register number. This is for BCA student. In the sense, I should start with B or any character I would like to have for register number. Especially for ID type, the first character, that is first digit, you can say anything, it should be character. So, actually ID should start with capital character data followed by any digits. So, student whose register number should be unique, so that I have preferred ID instead of character data. So, how can we define this? The sense, at least student, instead of name I have given register number, and instead of C data I should change it as ID, and hash required we have to provide. So, this is an XML document. For this XML document, I would like to have register number as unique valued attribute, which is register number. So, how can we provide unique value in the sense with the help of ID? Next, the ID ref. It is used for referring other ID of any other element. Say for example, the student who is maintaining an account with any bank, the same campus, the same university. So, the student whose register number is B101, who is having account with any bank, it may be any international bank, okay. This is a bank name, and his account number is, I can repeat, B101, which means it refers the particular student, and the student who maintains his account with ABC Bank, the same campus. So, I would like to have this reference. So, NO, that is number, which will be referred from other element, from especially ID. So, it is a kind of relationship between the elements. Next, ID refs. Suppose I would like to write the same account. Those who are having account, we want to specify number of students, those who are maintaining an account with a particular bank. Then The same way, this is bank ABC and group. These are group of students who maintains. So actually I can refer more than one account number. There is no separator, only space is enough. B102, B200. These are ID values which are referred for a particular element. So I can refer multiple IDs. So this is the way an XML document will have the data. Next, entity. In this, we have studied already about what is an entity. Entity is a kind of abbreviated text. We have learned special entities. What are the special entities? We have learned ampersand, it's a special entity. So it should be given like that, AMP. I hope you remember this. The place where we want to have ampersand, there we can use ampersand AMP semicolon. If you want to have double quote or single quote, greater than symbol, less than symbol, there we can use ampersand GT semicolon, ampersand LT semicolon. These are the conventions that we have to follow, especially for including the special entities in our XML document. Like that, we can have our own entities, that is user defined entities. The user defined entities can have abbreviations. Say for example, I would like to specify the student who is studying BCA. Student, this is element, course. In this place, I would like to specify the entity. In the sense, I have to use ampersand BCA semicolon double quotes. Suppose if I give like this, or I have repeated this for the element itself, instead of giving the attribute, I would like to give ampersand BCA semicolon. So this is the way the entity can be referred. So in this place, what I have mentioned, BCA. What is the meaning of BCA? How long the course will be conducted, how many semesters it has, how many courses, how many papers it has included, what are the credit, what are the accreditations it has. So these details cannot be dumped in this particular location as a string. So better we can go for entity. So this hash, ampersand BCA semicolon can be explored as separate file, which is called entity file. BCA dot ENT I have given. This is entity file, can have plenty of statements, strings. This file can be referred by entity ampersand BCA semicolon. So when this XML document is transformed, then the XML entity will be referred. This is the advantage of entity. We can use this entity references for defining an attribute. More than one entity we want to give by using space, then we can give the entities. Then enum token, instead of giving C data, we can give valid XML names. The valid XML name, which should not have any space, starts with space, starts with any keyword, XML like that, and should not start with the greater than symbol, less than symbol, ampersand, single quote, double quote. I want to provide proper naming convention for a given text. Say for example, I would like to have student name I want to specify. The student name should not carry any unwanted characters, symbols, entities, so that I should give proper name. For example, Raja, Siva. I have only space. Space will be allowed. In the sense, this is a valid XML names. Actually, if I give NM token singular, only single word can be given. If I go for NM tokens, then I can have multiple words which should follow XML naming convention. Then notation. This is also one of the important reference which will refer notation which are included in the XML document. Sometimes we would like to share student's photo or employee's ID card as an attachment. Then we should go for attaching the particular file. That should not be parsed by XML document. In the sense, we should go for just adding the file as an attachment. Here, the student element which is having photo. The photo, I should specify the notation details. Say for example, PHO only I have given. So what is PHO? That I have to specify in the DTD. What is PHO? The PHO actually notation which will refer any binary files. It may be JPEG file or any images file, or it may be referring any audio clips or video clips, or any binary formatted information can be referred through notation. So these are the different types of attributes: CData, ID, IDref, IDrefs, entity and entities, NM token, NM tokens, as well as notation. By using all this data type, we can specify the value of an attribute. Next, the attribute value type, whether the value will appear in the XML document, that we can specify. Can have default value, which means if the user fails to enter any value for an attribute, then automatically the value will be assigned. That we have to fix. What is the value will be assigned automatically. And the XML attribute can have a fixed value. An attribute can have required value. We cannot skip it. We must give a value for an attribute. And XML elements attribute is implied also. Sometimes we don't want to specify the value, it automatically assigns some value. That is, a default value will be assigned for this. It is not required and it is not mandatory one. In the sense, we can go for implied mode. Sometimes I can show you the student details can be given here. We know that roll number, definitely every student will be assigned with roll number. So the roll number should be required type, and roll number I have given 101. Next element, attribute hobby. It is not mandatory for all. So if the student willing to enter hobby detail, then we can give. So it is a kind of optional one. Doesn't we can go for implied. So hobby implied. Then the course is common for all students. That is, BCA is common. None of the student should enter wrong values. In the sense, we should make it as fixed value. So course can be fixed. So we will discuss all this one by one. Attribute with the default value. I can show you how to create an attribute using Oxygen editor. Coming to this, here I have specified just it's a students.xml document we have. I am creating a student with roll number equal to 101. It should be double quoted. Especially I would like to have ID reference for a roll number, so it should be B101 and space. I can add another attribute which is name for a student. Only these two attributes I have added for the student element who is studying BCA course. So this is about an element. Now I can create document type definition as an internal DTD. So we have to provide doc type, this is the root tag name, opening square bracket and closing square bracket. Here we have to specify all element details. The keyword element at list doc type should be in capital letter, exclamation element, student which is not having any child element, so it should be hash PC data alone. Yeah, we have given correctly, and we have to create at list. This is attribute list, it is abbreviated as at list, followed by element name space roll number. Actually roll number is an attribute, name is another attribute. So at list student roll number, it is I would like to have C data, or I can have ID or ID ref or ID refs. These are the possible attribute type. Now I can have ID and its attribute type is, it is mandatory, hash required, closing, the element has been closed well. You can see the student which is having hash PC data, and here the element should be closed properly. The student, just a moment, I can save this. This is the tag square bracket, and after this actually the element must be closed properly. I have closed it so that it won't show any error message, but still the name element is not defined so that it has shown like this. We have to rectify that. So after defining the roll number as we have specified, it is having B101. The main rule for ID, if we should start with any alphabets, if I don't give any alphabet, it will show error message like this. The attribute value 101 of type ID must be NC name when namespace are enabled. So it is marking correctly. So we have to provide proper attribute. Then we have to specify next attribute using at list student whose name is C data. As we have specified already, character data can hold any string values. So better I can have enum token, then it is also hash required. Now the entire XML document is valid. You can check validation successful. So this XML document is well prepared, well formed, as well as validated successfully. I need to have some more elements, that is attributes, at list student who is having hobby. It is not mandatory one. So that I can go for hobby is C data, but it is hash implied. So that even though we have not given the hobby for an element, it is not showing any error because it is implied. Even though if you give hobby, look at there, if you enter hobby, it will accept. It will accept. I have given singing. And next attribute I can have at list student course. The course should be fixed. I would like to have course can be fixed for all students. How to do that? At list element name, attribute name, it is C data I have given, then hash fixed. If I give hash fixed, then I should give BCA. So this is the way the course can be added for student. It is fixed I have given. Coming to this, if I enter course, actually the BCA will be coming automatically. If I try to enter MCA, then it won't allow us to enter MCA. So the human error can be rectified by having fixed value for some of the attributes for an element. So it will suggest automatically. If I enter space and equal to symbol after adding this, if I add course, it will suggest BCA automatically. We have to enter only this value. So this is the way an attribute can be added for an element. Like this, we can have default values also. How to do the default values? Look at here, at list element name space attribute name, attribute type that we can specify, hash required, hash fixed, hash implied, any one of the three should be given, space the default value can be entered, where the default value is the attribute value defined. So this is the way the default value can be given for an attribute. These are the references I have used in my XML document. Thank you for watching this video.